Let's start in East Africa, where Kenya's one-time opposition leader Raila Odinga is slightly ahead in the race for the presidency against incumbent Deputy President William Ruto. This is according to partial official results. Odinga has amassed over 52% of the vote when we checked a while ago against Ruto's 46.76%. Now, the latest figures were issued by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission in the early afternoon based on results from about 30% of polling stations. Kenyans are still waiting for final results 5 days after the country, considered one of the most dynamic democracies in Africa, went to the polls on Tuesday. Odinga is making his fifth stab at the top job with the support of his longtime foe and outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta. Kenyatta has already served his 2 terms and cannot run again. While Ruto has been deputy president for almost a decade, he was left out in the cold after a pact between Odinga and Kenyatta in 2018 that stunned the nation. Let's speak now with Professor of International Relations at the United States International University, Africa in Nairobi, Kenya, Professor Macharia Munene, to catch up with the latest results. A very good evening to you, Prof. Thanks so much for speaking to us. So, as I said, there was one set of results, but about 2 hours ago, the results showed that 93 of the 292 constituencies were declared, and the vote there was 52% to Raila Odinga against 47% for Mr. William Ruto. Is this a reflection somewhat of what is on the charts now? What is the leaderboard saying?
Well, what that reflects is what we saw yesterday and the day before, a very close race, which kept on fluctuating from one to the other. What the results that you mentioned indicate is up to the point where they have announced the constituencies, because what they are doing is going constituency by constituency to say what one person got of the other. So when you add them up at this stage, Raila has the upper edge, a slight edge. That is likely to change by tomorrow. And then you never know, then it will change again until they count or present all the constituencies so that the numbers can be accurate. Right now it's too close to call, as you saw. And the ones that have been presented indicate Raila to be slightly ahead.
And I want to talk about this issue of accuracy. Provincial results tallied by media organizations, they say using official data from about 46,000 polling stations, show that there is a tight race between the 2 candidates. They say about 14 million, of the 14 million votes cast, they read the turnout to be at 65%. But I want to know how Kenya can avoid confusion and controversy with discrepancies and understanding with the vote count, because we understand that some political parties, through their supporters, have been giving out different numbers and who's leading, contradicting each other.
Well, what you have with the 2 main parties, they have started getting into some sort of psychological warfare, putting pressure on the IBC and the public to expect that they will be announced to be the winners. That is increasingly the case, particularly today, yesterday and today. We've seen some of those theatrics trying to pep up the people in the hope that their desires will be translated into reality when eventually the commission announces the winner after the tabulation of all the votes and all the returning officers having presented their particulars. We still have a few returning officers not in Nairobi yet, have not presented their papers, and that might delay the announcement. So what we have, a lot of excitement, and people, parties trying to create an impression that they have already won, and the others. So there is a competition for psychological warfare.
And what is the effect of that contestation, rhetoric or propaganda? Does it have the potential to spark violent conflict, as have been fears? And we've seen that Kenya's electoral body has limited access to the national tallying center in order to speed up the process of verifying presidential results because of what they say are people who keep coming in and distorting the figures that they're trying to put out.
Well, there is a danger that the emotions might be aroused so much as to believe that if their candidate does not win, then the explanation would be that something underhanded was done. So the arousing of emotions might lead to some unpleasant activities. The hope is that that will not be the case, but there is a danger that some of the activities being conducted might lead the wrong way. And that's actually the reason why the religious leaders came out strongly and tried to urge both parties to refrain from inciting their followers into potentially rejecting the results.
And
is that danger, but we hope that it will not be that way.
So who is allowed access to the IEB's Central Nerve Center? Because we understand that the verification process had to be stopped at some point, the verification of results, because of complaints by supporters and their candidates. So who is allowed to the results center?
Well, the main agents for the presidential candidates are allowed. The flux of the crowd is to be limited, particularly when some of the politicians become rowdy. What has actually happened was, while people were waiting for their places to be called, there was kind of calm in the center. But once all these people were declared winners or losers, they were then free to come to Nairobi to go and cheer or create an excitement demanding that the commission declare their person to be the winner. So we have a lot of politicians who are now free to go into the center to demand that their man be declared the winner. And that would explain some of the fracas that were witnessed at the tallying center. Okay. It's just the politicians playing the coming from those who have been won in their different places, but no longer have to worry about it. So they are free to go and campaign for their man.
Prof, some insights, please, on the areas to watch, constituencies to watch, and at the margin, we did speak about the possibility of a runoff. Is that becoming less impossible?
Well, there are a few places that might need watching, or people to be careful not to tread in those areas too much. Some parts of Nairobi, where the excitement might be over. Some places, depending on who is declared the winner, then their supporters celebrating, and those others will be crying, and some of them might become rowdy. There have been some utterances by some people that are disturbing, to the point that they indicate they might not be willing to accept the results once they are announced. So those politicians who have made that clear, then where they are, the place they represent, is an area to watch as a possible trouble spot. But I do not think that there will be that widespread commotion as a result of the announcement.